Welcome into Texans Draft Live. It's day 3 of the 2022 NFL Draft home stretch here for the Texans. I welcome in our football analyst guru, everything, Mr. John Harris, who's done like 800 hours of radio, live television. And Johnny, welcome in. It's exciting. 5 picks down, 5 to go if everything remains the way it stands.
And you expect it to remain the same?
No, not at all. 0%. Let's take a look at what the Texans have done so far with their draft picks earlier. Day 1 and day 2, we saw Stingley at number 3, Johnny.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking about this. 3 defensive players, 2 offensive players, and they added a couple of guys yesterday as well. Your thoughts on the new additions?
So one quirk to the 3 picks they took yesterday, and I happened to notice this after Mechie and Christian Harris. They all wear the number 8. Jalen Petrie wore 8, Mechie. And they got both players that wore 8 at Alabama, so they'll all have to fight for that number. But we had a little birdie in our ear telling us what was going to happen at 37, and I was like, wow. Drew Doherty and I do these simulated mock drafts all the time, and we send them to each other, and we always finish with, we got better today. We always send every single one, we got better today. I can't tell you how many of them from both of us had Petrie at number 37. I think I had him 48, 49, somewhere 50. Had a second-round grade on him, only because he's not the biggest guy. You know, Kyle Hamilton's 6'4", 221. Petrie's 5'10-ish, 5'11", about 190. But that's about the only thing that's small in his game. Everything else is just absolutely fabulous, where he can play. I put it in my scouting report. He said it to you. He plays and thinks about the game like the Honey Badger. I mean, he looks at it as if he's Tyrann Mathieu. He can play a lot of spots. He can do a lot of different things. And you love that versatility. As long as versatility leads to doing well at different spots. Not just, well, we can line him up at different spots. That's not versatility. Versatility is you line a guy up at different spots and he succeeds. Versatility is not, well, we can line him at different spots and he's terrible. Versatility is line him up at different spots and he's successful. And then you hit 2 Alabama players. John Mechie is one of the more interesting guys you're going to meet. His background is unbelievable.
It really is.
It's really crazy.
Football
and awesome.
and non-football.
Yes, very much so.
In both senses of the word.
And I love, I didn't have him as high in the Harris 100 because I'll be honest, I was sort of confused as to what to do with him. Because when I watched him in 2020, I was like, boy, he had a really good year, but is he a slot guy? Is he outside? I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do with him. And it really wasn't until the second half of the NFL season when I saw what the Niners were doing with Deebo Samuel. I was like, that could be what you think about with Mechie. Because he's about 5'11", 190 in that range. Strong as an ox, can run, tough. He had one of the best hits I've ever seen as a defender because there was an interception. Trey Dean had an interception against him in the SEC Championship game in 2020, and Dean's kind of running. He's not looking, and Mechie blasts him. The ball pops out. Devontae Smith gets on it, and then Alabama scored a touchdown on the next play, and it changes the complexion of the game. He does the little things. He grinds, even though I hate that word, but he just is tough. He can make big catches. And then the game against Auburn, he's going against Roger McCreary, and it's a tremendous battle. And Jameson Williams really isn't doing much that night. And Mechie's the guy that Bryce Young is going to. And Mechie is the one that beats McCreary for the game-winning touchdown. If he's healthy, he's going to find a way to carry the ball. We talked about this yesterday. Ball-carrying weapons. He's going to be one of those guys. Christian Harris, it's funny because going into the season, I had him in the top 25.
Before you get to Christian Harris, though, I thought it was interesting with John Mechie. You say you don't really know what to do with him. He has a background with Pep Hamilton, the offensive coordinator, who tried to recruit him out of high school. Yeah. So this staff knows him pretty well. I feel like they've got their plan in place. They know what they want to do with him.
Absolutely. And when you combine him, and the funny thing is, and I've said this a few times, when I do the Harris 100, I do it for everybody. I mean, I do it for every team. If I were doing it for just the Texans, I probably would look at things differently. I think John Mechie is a better fit for the Texans than even some of the other receivers I had ranked ahead because you have Nico Collins, you have Brandon Cooks. I felt like there was going to be a certain receiver that was going to fit with those two. I think Mechie fits really well, and that makes his value to the Texans that much more. If you would have gotten maybe a bigger receiver, well, maybe you're replicating Nico Collins. If you were going to look for a guy that's, kind of like Brandon Cooks, well, obviously you're replicating Brandon Cooks, but Mechie kind of fits right in the middle. He's a little bit bigger than Brandon, does a little bit different things than Brandon, but he's not the 6'4", 215, uber size that Nico Collins is, so he kind of fits in the middle. It's a really good fit, I think, in this offense. So really fun player. And the fact that he did know Pep Hamilton through the recruiting process, I think, really helps. And then lastly, Christian Harris. Going into the 2021 season, when I did my initial Harris 100, I had him in the top 25. He is not really the size, but the speed, the quickness. He played as a linebacker at Alabama, very productive in 2020, coming off the national championship season. At the start of 2021, I was like, I don't know, man. It's not clicking for me. Now, I hadn't studied him in depth. And then I started studying him near the end of the year. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to like where this is. And then a national championship game, he put on a show. He was outstanding. And I wrote in my scouting report that I thought he was one of the top 3 defensive players in that game. Top 3 players in that game. And there were 5 of them in that game from Georgia that went in the first round. And he was outstanding. He made a play on the first play of the game where it was a bootleg, and they tried to get Stetson Bennett out from Georgia to get some vision to see a receiver. And Harris read it perfectly and took off like a shot. When Bennett booted, Harris went to go meet him at the spot and then put a lick on him. And it started really the game for Alabama, and Harris was on it all night. He's physical. He can play in coverage. He's only 226 pounds, but there is not a blocker that he won't take on. He is physical. He is like a lot of the Alabama linebackers. He does not back off, and he brings some funk. You hear him when he delivers some hits. So he's going to be an interesting piece in this defense from all the different things that he can do. I can't wait to get him here.
His highlight reel is tremendous. It's hard to believe that he didn't start playing linebacker until he got to Alabama. I mean, that's when he started playing. He was a wide receiver and a defensive back before then.
Here's the thing about Alabama, which is interesting. About 7-8 years ago, they had kind of a sea change. They had always done things one way. They had a profile for this position, this position, this position. And it was really Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, the way they ran their defense. And then about 7-8 years ago, they started changing what they were looking for at certain positions. They didn't go for the 250-pound linebacker anymore. They went and took safeties and put them at linebacker because of all the spread and RPO stuff that teams were doing in college. And Christian Harris was a result of that. He was a safety when they bumped him down to linebacker because of what they were seeing and what the speed and the quickness and the agility they needed to match what other college offenses were using. Well, in that time frame, the NFL starts running that stuff. So now Christian Harris has been schooled in the Alabama defense where they've seen that stuff, and now he's going to see it on a little bit different level. Obviously, the talent level goes up, but he's going to see a lot of the same things that he was seeing down at college. I think he'll be able to fit. And look, linebackers around the league now, you remember Ted Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way linebackers used to look in the 90s. I mean, Teddy J and I talked about this all the time. He's like, bro, I would have moved down to defensive end. I'm like, yeah, that's
for sure. He would have been playing D-line in these days.
You're not seeing the B-Max, the Bernardrick McKinneys, and the Brian Cushings. I mean, those dudes were in the 250s. I mean, they were, whoa. Now you're talking about 240 tops, sleek, agile, can run to the ball. And Christian's at 226, maybe even on the little bit smaller side. But the fact that he can run and cover and hit and take on blocks and doesn't back down at that size, fine. Stay at that size. Stay where you're comfortable. Run to the football and make plays.
Lovie Smith is excited about it. He was hugging Nick Caserio after the pick. I mean, it is a linebacker-friendly defense, and he was so emotional. I had a chance to catch up with him afterwards, and he just couldn't get any words out. He was so excited to play in this defense and get to play for Lovie Smith. I know we've got a whole preview of the day 3 picks that the Texans have coming up here. They've got 5 picks remaining, and let's get to some of your fan questions, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, German Texan who woke up, I don't know what time it is in Germany. I guess it's the afternoon, so he's probably already awake. He says, I think Nick isn't done trading up. Do you guys agree? I think that's a safe bet because we saw a lot of wheeling and dealing yesterday, and we've got 5 picks remaining, so 1 in the 4th, 2 in the 5th, 2 in the 6th, none in the 7th, and Johnny, I wouldn't be shocked if our day ended a little bit earlier because Nick wanted to trade back up again.
Sure. I wouldn't be surprised to see him trade up.
He did it twice yesterday.
I wouldn't think trading down. I wouldn't think. But then again, crazier things have happened. I love this top of the 4th round, second pick. I love having that pick. When they were able to leave out of here last night, they had a chance to look at their board and say, okay, of what we have up here, the only thing we'll lose is one player off of this, so we should have some pretty good options. I could maybe see Nick moving down out of 107. Maybe. Just there might be 4 or 5 players. Maybe they can move 4 or 5 spots. They can get a few picks or a few trade assets to go with it. Who knows? But I think 107 is a really, really good spot. But it's a pretty safe bet to say, look, is Nick done trading? No.
No.
Does the sun rise in the east and set in the west? I mean, it's like you can set your watch to it.
I think
Nick
he enjoys
Caserio
it.
is going to trade. You can set your watch to it.
All right, Chris wants to know, and we're going to put up a graphic as well. He says, is Isaiah Spiller still available? He would be amazing. An Aggie running back. Let's see who is available, Chris. Let's just show you the best available prospects here heading into day 3. And Isaiah Spiller is on that list. Texans will pick second here as soon as the draft gets started at 11 o'clock. He's on there, as well as Kyron Williams from Notre Dame. Those two are both still available. Johnny, when you look at this best available list, who else jumps out at you?
Well, just run through that list real quick. Winfrey is an enigma. I can't figure him out. But he's very similar to the player you have already. I mean, you might duplicate him with Ross Blacklock. Kingsley, JJ, and Agbury from out of South Carolina, I think, is really similar to John Grenard. I would love to see an Agbury here. As Isaiah Spiller we just talked about, 2 quarterbacks, Sam Howell, Carson Strong, I don't think they'll take a look at. Tariq Woolen is one of the freakiest athletes in this draft. Freaky. But there's a lot of work he's got to do to his game. Now, Kobe Bryant, if you took Tariq Woolen's elite traits and put him in Kobe Bryant would have gone above Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley. Kobe Bryant is a heck of a football player, but he just doesn't have the traits that a guy like Woolen has. And Kyron Williams was a guy that Lovie Smith recruited to go to University of Illinois. Williams being from St. Louis, he ended up going to Notre Dame. And Kyron Williams, even at 5'8", 5'9", not a tall guy, 205 pounds, maybe the best pass-protecting running back I've seen. Maybe ever. I mean, he's outstanding. He's just incredible as a pass protector. He and Dameon Pierce, the 2 running backs, I just saw those guys, stone guys, as pass protectors. Kyron Williams, I would love to see here at 107. So those are the next best available, and obviously there are a few more beyond that we'll talk about, but those are some of the guys I have left in the Harris 100.
All right, Adam wants to know, what positions could you see the Texans addressing today? We talked about it earlier, 3 defense, 2 offense. Do they go offense, defense? They haven't picked up a pass rusher, an edge rusher yet. They don't have a running back yet. Or do they sort of beef up some of the other positions?
Well, I think they've addressed, obviously, some of the needs. I don't think they've doubled up on any of the positions. I think
secondary, you've got 2 in secondary.
But you've got a corner, you got a safety. Right. So I don't know that they would go with those positions per se. They got an off-ball linebacker. They've not attacked the interior of the defense. But if there is some depth on this team, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, I think it's on the inside. You've got Ross, and you got Roy, and you got Malik. You also got the guy, the second-year guy, Michael Dwumfor, who came on late, who was really impressive the last few games of the year when he got an opportunity to play. He, I thought, looked really, really good. So I think you have some depth on the interior. So if you avoid that, maybe. But running back is the one that I think a lot of people have asked about. And I've said all along, look, you don't have to take one in round 2. You need to start thinking about it in 3. But in 4, I think you still have some really good value. We just showed you Kyron Williams is still on the board. Dameon Pierce from Florida is still on the board. Isaiah Spiller is my highest-ranked running back still on the board. A few of them went last night that I like. But Isaiah Spiller is an interesting one because I think he's been slept on this entire process because he didn't run a 4.5 or 4.4. He had a little bit of injury at the combine. He's trying to gut it out, and so he tested a couple things, and then he like, I got to shut it down. And then I thought he tested okay at his pro day. He's not a Rashad White going to test through the roof sort of guy, but he is reliable. He has really become a good pass receiver. And his inside running vision, skill, and toughness, I think, are something that and of course he's from Houston, so I think all of that goes together. And the fact that he would have an opportunity, whatever running back gets drafted, will have an opportunity to get on the field this year and show what that back can do. So I think running back will be one of them, even if they got to get to the 5th round. And again, I can't remember all the picks because Nick was swapping them left and right, and I was on radio, and so we'll show them at some point, but Isaiah Spiller is a guy I would absolutely think about at 107. I mean, I think that's a steal.
There you go, Johnny. Asking you shall receive.
Thank you. So
107. It's the second pick as soon as the draft kicks off today, and then you've got 2 in the 5th and 2 in the 6th. Which I I wouldn't get married to these numbers or these picks.
No.
I think it's going to be a wheeling and dealing type of day 3 draft.
Absolutely.
As well.
Just know they've got 5 draft assets going into Saturday, and we'll see what Nick does with them, whether it's players or whether it's trading into next year or trading to go up, etc. I know we got one question there I want to hit. I want to hit that one from Ryan.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you. Ryan wants to know, what are your thoughts on A&M player Jalen, was it Weidermeyer?
Jalen Weidermeyer had an excellent 3-year career at Texas A&M, and this has been one of the really difficult ones for me because watching him at A&M, I thought, boy, this guy's got next level ability. But at his pro day, his testing was about it's the worst testing of any tight end in this draft class. And it wasn't even close. And you watch him catch the football and run routes, and you go, wow, this guy is, okay. But his testing was so off the charts bad. And then I started talking to a few people. I talked to one scout, and then I talked to another person that knew an agent that had given me some information that was like, wow, he just wasn't prepared for that level of preparation that he needed to get ready for the draft. And the scouts were like, scouts are it's interesting talking to them because they just, when they're off the record, they just don't BS with you. And you're like, oh man, yeah, it's not good. It's not good. So maybe we talk about tight end. That might be an efficiency with Weidermeyer, maybe later in this draft, that you're able to snatch up. Cade Otton from Washington, I really like. He's a true Y. Weidermeyer kind of splits the middle. He's kind of a U. He can play with his hand in the dirt. He can play as a pass catcher. I think he's got a future, but it's one of those things where you don't realize, if you don't realize what you have to do when you're going to the NFL, then when you get to the NFL, it's going to hit you right in the face, and you're not going to be ready for it, and your career is going to be a year or two. So it's been a tough draft season for Weidermeyer, and that's really why he's in the situation he's in. All
right, let's hit one more question. Ronald wants to know, will we get an edge rusher? This is a position that I really thought the Texans might address early on in the draft. A lot of people did because there was such a big cluster of edge rushers early on. They haven't done it so far. Johnny, is today the day that they do that? Or you've listed all the names that are currently on the Texans roster. Do they just sort of stay put with that and then go from there?
If they don't draft one, my gut tells me they'll go out and sign one or two through the undrafted free agent process. I had said all along, the edge position is great at the top. Really at the top. It's very top heavy. You had, obviously, Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker, however you want to define him. You had Karlaftis who went. You had Jermaine Johnson. You had a number of guys that were going to go early. You had Thibodeau. Those guys are going to go early. Then you had a couple in the Boy Mafe area, Nick Benito, and then there's kind of this drop-off. And that's, I think, where the Texans are right now. They're looking at it going, and this is to the running back situation. I still think there are some running backs in this draft that you can maybe get in the 5th round and feel good about, but I don't know if you want to stretch it out with edge rushers all the way to the 5th, 6th round. So maybe you jump on a Kingsley and Agbury right now. Maybe Dominique Robinson from out of Miami of Ohio, who has got some serious athletic skills, former receiver that turned himself into a defensive end. And when I tell you he's got zero body fat, he might have negative body fat. That would be a first. Unbelievable. Yeah. So from that perspective, I think it's going to be interesting from an edge rusher what they can do on day 3. They have to get creative. They may have to take a guy that is thought to be a 3-4 outside linebacker and see if they can pack some weight on and teach him to be a defensive end, et cetera. But will they get one? I think if they don't draft one, I think they'll go out and get maybe a couple of projects, 1 or 2 in the undrafted process.
All right, let's show the picks that are remaining real quick before we let you go, because it's been fast, it's been furious, it's been ever-changing. It's probably still going to continue to change. The Texans have 5 picks as they head into day 3 of the draft. The first one kicks off very quickly at pick 107. That's just the second pick into the 4th round. And then they've got 2 in the 5th round, 2 in the 6th round. And we shall take it from there. You can check out John Harris here. He'll be on Sports Radio 610 covering the draft. As soon as it kicks off from 11, you're going to be on the whole day, Johnny, right? You're going to have you're going to have a mixing and matching of hosts throughout the day. Sean Pendergast is going to join you.
Sean Pendergast, Clint Sterner in just a little bit, and then in the afternoon Mark comes back. Oh, then we'll have our guy T. Milner. I love T. Mill, and he will love to see. And he was so happy about Kenyon Green being drafted here. He's a pure Aggie. And so he'll be excited if Isaiah Spiller joins his buddy. But, yeah, I'm hoping for at least one more Houston homeboy, one more guy from Houston playing for his hometown team. That's always kind of cool. So
We're kind of on a run. We're kind of on a run. Every single day we've picked some local guys, so maybe today we'll hit the streak once again. Johnny, thanks so much for the live shows of the past few days. Look forward to listening to you on Sports Radio 610. You can check out HoustonTexans.com for all the coverage. That's going to do it for Texans Draft Live. You can check out the actual radio program and the draft, which gets underway here in about 30 minutes, just under 30 minutes at 11 a.m. Central Time. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, go Texans.
This is a Houston Texan pick. It's not somebody's individual pick. It's our pick. It's our player. We got to embrace him, make the best decision for our team, and just to keep moving forward.
With the third pick, the Houston Texans select
Texans All Access, Sunday night at 11 on ABC 13.
This is a Houston Texan pick. It's not somebody's